The first time she looked at the bed, she didn't cry. She just stood in the doorway, one hand covering her mouth, staring at something most people would have walked past without a second thought. It was just a bed. 4 sturdy oak legs. A handmade headboard with tiny carved flowers. A quilt folded neatly across the mattress. But to Linda Harper, it was the first brand new piece of furniture anyone had ever built just for her. Her voice trembled. I don't know what to say. I smiled awkwardly and wiped sawdust from my jeans. You don't have to say anything. She stepped closer, ran her fingertips across the polished wood. Then laughed through watery eyes. Well, she said, we should test it. Care to help? For exactly 2 horrifying seconds, my brain completely stopped working. Then she burst into laughter. I mean, sit on it, she said, pointing at the mattress. If it collapses with both of us, I'd rather know now. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my toolbox. That moment became one of our favorite family jokes. But none of us knew that simple bed would end up changing 3 lives forever. I met Ethan Harper during my sophomore year of college. We became friends because we were equally broke. While everyone else spent weekends at football games or parties, we worked. He stocked shelves at a grocery store. I repaired furniture in my grandfather's garage. Building things wasn't just a hobby. It was how I remembered my grandfather. He always told me, if you can build something that makes another person's life easier, you've already had a good day. After he passed away, I kept every tool he owned. Every scratch on those old hammers felt like a conversation that never really ended. One Saturday afternoon, Ethan asked if I could help him move a dresser. When we arrived at his house, I understood why he'd been embarrassed to invite me over before. The little house leaned slightly to one side. The porch steps were cracked. The paint had faded years ago. Inside, everything was spotless. Old, but spotless. His mother, Linda, greeted me with the warmest smile I'd ever seen. I'm sorry about the mess. There wasn't any mess. Just worn furniture held together with determination. She insisted on making grilled cheese sandwiches while Ethan and I moved boxes. Halfway through lunch, I noticed something. She never sat down. Instead, she leaned carefully against the kitchen counter. You okay? I asked. She smiled. Oh, these old bones don't like sitting much. Later, Ethan quietly told me the truth. His mom had severe back problems. Her mattress was over 20 years old. The springs had broken so badly that she often slept in a recliner instead. A new bed cost more than they could afford. They were already choosing between medication, groceries, and utility bills every month. That conversation stayed with me for weeks. Around Christmas, my woodworking business picked up. Neighbors started paying me to build coffee tables, bookshelves, and dining benches. It wasn't much. But for the first time, I had extra money. Instead of buying the new gaming console I'd been saving for, I bought lumber. High-quality oak. Strong support beams. Memory foam materials I found on clearance. For nearly 3 weeks, every evening after work, I stayed in Grandpa's old workshop. Cutting. Sanding. Measuring. Starting over whenever something wasn't perfect. I wanted this bed to last decades. When I finally finished, I carved one sentence underneath. The frame where no one would ever see it unless they looked. Built with hope. Getting the bed into Linda's tiny bedroom took almost an hour. The hallway was so narrow we had to rotate the headboard sideways. When everything was finally assembled, the room looked completely different. Warmer. Brighter. Like hope had somehow become furniture. Linda walked in carrying folded sheets. She froze. Ethan. He shook his head. It wasn't me. She looked at me. No. I nodded. Yes. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then came the famous sentence. We should test it. Care to help? The misunderstanding lasted only seconds before we were all laughing. So hard that tears rolled down our faces. The three of us sat on the mattress together. It didn't move. Didn't creak. Didn't wobble. Linda bounced gently. It's stronger than my first marriage. Even Ethan nearly fell off the bed laughing. That was the first time I'd ever heard her joke about anything. Over the following months, something incredible happened. Linda's back slowly improved. Not because the pain disappeared, but because she was finally sleeping through the night. She smiled more. Cooked more. Started tending flowers outside again. Good sleep gave her pieces of her life back. One evening she handed me an envelope. Inside was $50. I've been saving. I immediately pushed it back. No. You worked hard. I didn't build this for money. She looked almost offended. So you're saying I can't thank you? I thought for a second. You can. How? Invite me over for dinner once in a while. She laughed. That's much cheaper. From then on, Friday dinners became tradition. Nothing fancy. Spaghetti. Soup. Chicken casserole. Sometimes breakfast for dinner because eggs were on sale. Those meals taught me something expensive restaurants never could. Food tastes different. When everyone around the table genuinely cares about one another. A year later, disaster struck. A fire started in the house next door. The flames spread quickly. By the time firefighters arrived, part of the Harper home had been damaged by smoke and water. Furniture was ruined. Family photos soaked. Walls blackened. The handmade bed survived. It stood untouched beneath a section of ceiling that somehow never collapsed. When volunteers helped clean the house, one firefighter stopped and examined it. Who built this? I did, I answered. He nodded. Solid work. Word spread. Neighbors started asking if I built furniture professionally. Church members called. Teachers. Retired couples. Young families. Within months, I had more orders than I could handle. I officially opened a small woodworking business. Its name came easily. Built with hope. The words hidden beneath Linda's bed became the sign above my shop. Success changed my income. It never changed Friday dinners. Linda refused. I don't care if you become a millionaire, she'd say. You're still washing dishes. Some traditions shouldn't disappear. One snowy December afternoon, a young woman entered my workshop carrying a photograph. My husband passed away last year, she said quietly. Our son has been sleeping on the floor because I can't afford furniture. She looked embarrassed. I heard, sometimes, you help people. Her words hit me harder than she knew. I built the bed for free. Then another. And another. Eventually, customers who could afford full price started paying extra after hearing the stories. One businessman bought a dining table. When he learned where the money went, he doubled the payment. Build another bed. Then someone else did the same. Soon every 10 paid orders funded one free bed for a family in need. We never advertised it. People simply wanted to help. Kindness has a strange way of multiplying when nobody is trying to take credit for it. 5 years after I built Linda's bed, our town hosted a community celebration. They asked me to speak. I hated public speaking. But I accepted. Standing before hundreds of neighbors, I pointed toward the front row where Linda sat beside Ethan. I didn't change their lives, I said. They changed mine. People looked confused. If Ethan hadn't invited me over that day. If Linda hadn't welcomed a broke college kid like family. If Grandpa hadn't taught me to build with love instead of pride. There wouldn't be this business. There wouldn't be hundreds of beds in homes across 3 states. There wouldn't be dozens of volunteers giving weekends to help strangers. The greatest gift I ever received wasn't money. It was being trusted enough to help. When I finished, the audience stood. Not for me. For everyone who had picked up a hammer, donated wood, delivered furniture, or simply believed that small acts of kindness still mattered. That night, after the celebration, Linda invited us back for dinner. The house had long since been repaired. Fresh paint covered the walls. Flowers bloomed beneath the windows. Before dessert, she disappeared into her bedroom and returned carrying a small wooden plaque. It had been unscrewed from underneath the bed. Somehow she had found the hidden carving years earlier. She placed it in my hands. Across the front she had engraved new words beneath mine. Built with hope. Filled with love. Shared with others. I couldn't speak. Neither could Ethan. Linda smiled the same gentle smile she had worn the day we met. You know, she said. I used to think kindness was something rich people could afford. She looked around the room filled with laughter, family, and friends. I was wrong. The richest people are the ones who never stop giving. Even when they don't have much. I looked at the old bed still standing proudly in the corner. It wasn't just wood anymore. It was proof that one generous decision could echo far beyond a single home. Sometimes changing the world doesn't begin with a grand speech or a $1 million donation. Sometimes it begins with a few pieces of oak. A borrowed toolbox, a friend who needs help. And a mother whose joyful words make everyone laugh. We should test it. Care to help. And because one person said yes, hundreds of families would one day sleep a little warmer, dream a little bigger. And wake believing that kindness is strongest when it's built to last.